She said, "I'm meeting Nolan for the conference weekend, and I need you to stay out of sight. I can't have you clinging to me in front of people who sign my future." I didn't raise my voice. I went straight to the kitchen table and started canceling everything with my name on it. Hey friends, please subscribe and turn on notifications, like this video, and leave a comment with your impressions. This will be a great help. Thank you. We never tire of reminding you. It's all thanks to you. I'm 42 and this happened in Tampa, Florida, during the sticky stretch of early spring when the air feels heavy and the days run long. I work as a quality systems manager at a food packaging plant. It's a lot of audits, corrective action reports, and signing off that procedures were followed. If there's a problem, you don't fix it by arguing. You fix it by tracing the source, documenting the facts, and removing the risk. My girlfriend at the time was Jocelyn. She was 35 and worked as a talent acquisition lead for a fast-growing tech company. Jocelyn lived in a world of calendars, introductions, and polished conversations. She could walk into a room and leave with 3 new contacts and a dinner invitation. When we met, I admired her confidence. She told me she admired my steadiness. We'd been together for almost 3 years and shared a rented townhouse in the Seminole Heights area. It wasn't a showplace, but it was comfortable. We had a little patio out back and a small spare room I used as a home office. We talked openly about marriage, not as a vague someday, but as something we were planning for the following winter. We'd even started making tangible moves toward it. I had already put down a deposit on a ring through a local jeweler because Jocelyn liked a particular style, and I wanted it done right. We also paid a deposit to reserve a small private space at a waterfront restaurant for a family dinner in 2 months, because she loved the idea of announcing our engagement to both families in a clean, intentional way. On top of that, we had begun a joint loan pre-approval process with my credit union because we wanted to buy a small house after we got engaged. Jocelyn liked saying we were building. For a long time, it felt true. Then the changes started, quiet at first, like small cracks you don't notice until the light hits them. Jocelyn began coming home later, but not in the normal way. She didn't come home tired. She came home energized, like the day had fed her instead of drained her. She started dressing differently for work, more like she expected cameras. She began keeping her phone close, always face down, always within reach. If I walked into the room, the screen would go dark quickly, like a reflex. One Wednesday, I picked up our shared tablet to check our electric bill because the monthly charge looked higher than usual. The tablet was logged into our household email since that's where bills and receipts went. I wasn't digging. I was looking for a statement. A banner popped up across the top of the screen. Reservation confirmed, Bayview Hotel, 2 nights. The dates were for the following weekend. We had no trips planned. I stared at it for a second, then tapped the notification because my thumb moved before my brain could stop it. The email opened. It was addressed to Jocelyn, and the reservation was for a king room. The confirmation number was there, the cancellation policy listed in plain text, and the note at the bottom said, "Early check-in requested." I didn't scroll further. I didn't need to. My stomach felt cold in a way that had nothing to do with air conditioning. When Jocelyn got home, I didn't accuse her. I didn't go dramatic. I asked a normal question. "Hey," I said, "are you traveling next weekend?" She paused mid-step, like my timing hit something sensitive. "Why?" "I saw a hotel confirmation on the tablet," I said, keeping my voice even. "Bayview Hotel." She recovered quickly and smiled. "Oh, that's for a company event, recruiting summit. It's downtown, so it's easier than commuting." "That's not something you mentioned," I said. "I forgot," she replied, too fast. "It's not a big deal." That explanation could have been true. It sounded plausible, so I did what I always do when I don't have full information. I watched patterns instead of arguing. Over the next few days, the pattern sharpened. She took a call in the backyard late at night, walking in circles on the patio while I could see her through the window. Her voice was low and soft, a tone she didn't use with clients or coworkers. When she came inside, she looked at me like she was measuring how much I'd noticed. The next morning, she left for work wearing a blazer I'd never seen, hair curled, makeup done carefully. It was a Thursday, not a day she normally dressed up. "Big meeting?" I asked. She smiled without warmth, something like that. By Friday evening, she was almost giddy, the way people get when they're about to step into an environment that validates them. She was packing a small suitcase in the bedroom. She had laid out 2 outfits on the bed like she was preparing for photos. When I stepped into the doorway, she didn't turn around. "So," I said calm, "this hotel thing is for a recruiting summit." She zipped the suitcase and finally faced me. "It's a conference weekend." "What conference?" I asked. She looked annoyed, like I was making her late. "It's not your world, Curtis." That was a new tone, my name spoken like a boundary line. "Okay," I said, "who's going with you?" Her eyes narrowed. "No one is going with me. It's work." I didn't argue. I just said, "Then why did the reservation request early check-in and a king room?" The air in the room shifted. Jocelyn's expression changed from casual to controlled. "You opened my email," she said, sharp. "It's on the shared tablet," I replied. "It popped up while I was checking the utility bill." She took a slow breath like she was calming herself down, but it looked more like she was choosing a strategy. "I'm not doing this with you," she said. "I'm not doing anything," I answered. "I'm asking questions because your story isn't matching your behavior." That's when she finally told me the truth, in the most disrespectful way possible. She lifted her chin and said, "I'm meeting Nolan." I felt my face stay neutral even though my chest tightened. Nolan. Her ex, I knew the name because she'd mentioned him early in our relationship. Nolan was the one who had moved away for a job. Nolan was the one she described as ambitious. Nolan was the one she claimed she'd outgrown. I had never liked the way she talked about him, like he was a benchmark. "What does meeting Nolan have to do with a recruiting conference?" I asked. Jocelyn rolled her eyes. "Nolan's company is sponsoring. He knows people. It's important. He can help me get into better rooms." I waited, giving her a chance to correct herself, to say something that respected me. Instead, she stepped closer, lowered her voice like she was giving instructions to an employee, and delivered the line that made everything inside me go quiet. "This weekend is about my network," she said. "I need you to stay out of sight. I can't have you hovering around me like a security blanket in front of people who sign my future." Hovering security blanket, people who sign my future. It wasn't just about Nolan. It was about how she saw me, as something that could embarrass her, something she had to manage, something that didn't belong in the version of her life she cared most about. I didn't yell, I didn't insult her, I didn't beg her to stay. I asked one question carefully. "Are you asking me to be okay with you spending the weekend with your ex and telling me to hide?" She shrugged. "I'm telling you what I need." That statement hit like a door closing. I thought about the ring deposit sitting under my name. I thought about the restaurant contract for the family dinner. I thought about the credit union loan pre-approval that was waiting on final documents, documents I had already provided. I thought about the future she expected me to fund and stabilize while she chased a different life. And I realized the power move she was making. She wanted the safety of my commitment while she tested her options. I looked at her suitcase, then at her face. "All right," I said. Her shoulders loosened, relief washing over her like she'd won. "Thank you, that's mature." She took her phone off the dresser, glanced at a message, smiled faintly, and went back to packing as if I was a solved problem. That night after she fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. I didn't do it in anger. I did it the way I handle anything risky at work, remove exposure. First, the ring. I searched my email for Palmetto Jewelers and found the receipt. Subject: deposit confirmation, custom ring setting, order PJ 5521. I read the terms slowly. The deposit was refundable if the design had not entered production, and production began only after final approval was signed. Jocelyn had delayed the final appointment twice because she couldn't decide. We were still in the window. I called when they opened the next morning. "Palmetto Jewelers, this is Dana." "Hi," I said. "I need to cancel an order. Order number PJ 5521. Dana asked for my name and confirmed the order details. She asked if we had signed off on the final design. I told her the truth, no. "All right," she said. "We can cancel and initiate the deposit refund today. It typically returns to the card within 5 to 7 business days. I'll email you confirmation." Within minutes, it arrived. Subject: cancellation confirmed, refund initiated. PJ 5521. I saved it as a PDF and filed it. Second, the waterfront restaurant. We had booked a private dining room at a place called Harborline Grill for a Sunday evening in 8 weeks. The deposit was in my name because I signed the contract. The cancellation clause stated, full refund if canceled more than 30 days in advance, minus a small administrative fee. I emailed them right away. Subject cancellation request, private dining reservation, May 19. I included the reservation number and requested written confirmation and refund timeline. They replied before lunch. Subject reservation canceled, refund processing, 7-10 business days. I saved that too. Third, the loan pre-approval. Our credit union loan officer had sent a message asking for one final document from Jocelyn and a signature authorization for a credit pull update. I didn't want my financial future tied to someone who treated me as optional. I wrote to the loan officer. Subject update pause joint pre-approval. I stated I needed the joint application paused immediately and requested confirmation that no further action would occur without my written authorization. I also asked that my personal documents remain confidential and not shared further. The loan officer responded politely within an hour. Application paused. No further credit pull confirmed. Receipt number 3. Then I handled our shared accounts. We had a joint savings account for house and wedding, with automatic transfers from both of us. I did not empty it. I did not punish her with money. I turned off my automatic transfer, took screenshots of the balance and transaction history, and then emailed Jocelyn. Subject shared savings, contributions paused. I wrote one simple sentence. I paused my transfers effective today. We can reconcile and divide the balance fairly once all shared deposits and refunds are confirmed. Clean, documented. Then I moved to the townhouse lease. Both our names were on it. The lease had 4 months left. The renewal offer had already been emailed, but it wasn't signed yet. I read the lease clause about renewal and tenant removal. Renewal required signatures. Tenant removal required approval and requalification of the remaining tenant. I emailed the property management company. Subject lease, non-renewal and tenant change inquiry. I stated I would not sign a renewal, and I requested the process for a tenant removal request if Jocelyn wanted to remain alone. They replied with a form titled Tenant Change Request and a note, remaining tenant must qualify independently. Both tenants remain liable until approved. Receipt number 4 in my inbox, timestamped. By Saturday afternoon, I had done what I needed to do on paper. Now I needed to do it physically. I arranged a short-term rental through a furnished housing service used by traveling nurses. Month to month, deposit paid, lease in my name only. I chose a place across town, not to hide, but to create distance. Then I packed. I packed only what was clearly mine. My clothes, my work laptop, my personal documents, the tools I had bought, the framed photos of my family, my kitchen knives that I'd owned before we met. I left shared furniture alone. I left the TV. I left the couch. I left everything that could become a fight. Before I left, I took photos of the townhouse. Walls, floors, appliances, every room. Not because I planned a legal battle, but because documentation keeps people honest. On the kitchen counter, I left a short note. Jocelyn, I moved out today. I will pay my share of rent through the end of our current lease term. I will not sign a renewal. Please communicate by email for any logistics. No insults, no emotional paragraphs, just facts and boundaries. Jocelyn left for her conference weekend, Sunday morning. She didn't say goodbye in a meaningful way. She just kissed my cheek like a habit and said, "Don't make this weird." "I won't," I replied. And I meant it. She came back Monday night. I know because my phone lit up with calls and messages in a flood. First call, then another, then a string of texts. What is this note? Where did you go? You can't just leave like that. Then an email. Subject, you're seriously doing this. I replied once, because adults keep things in writing when emotions spike. Subject, Ray, you're seriously doing this. I moved out. I'm not continuing the relationship. lease, and financial logistics can be handled by email. That was the first confrontation, quiet and controlled. The second came in person the next day. I was walking from my car to my office building when I saw her waiting near the entrance, arms crossed, face tight. She had that look of someone who expects the world to bend back into place if they apply enough pressure. "You left," she said. "Yes," I replied. She stepped closer, over a work conference. "It wasn't a work conference," I said calmly. She scoffed. "Oh, please, you're jealous, you're insecure. You opened my email like a snoop." Minimization and blame, all at once. "It's on the shared tablet," I said, "and you told me to stay out of sight while you spent the weekend with your ex." She threw her hands up. "You're twisting my words. I was trying to protect my career." Then the insults came. "You don't get it," she said, voice rising. "You're a background person. You think being steady is enough." I watched her face, listened to her tone, and felt something settle deeper. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was her real perspective slipping out. I kept my voice flat. "If you need to discuss the lease or shared money, email me." Her eyes flashed. "So you're just going to punish me? You think you're better than me because you're calm." "I'm not punishing you," I said. "I'm leaving a situation where I'm treated like an embarrassment." Then she shifted again, like she was flipping through tactics. "You're abandoning me," she said, voice cracking. "I didn't think you'd actually do it. I thought you'd get over it." Tears arrived quickly, but they didn't move me. Not because I was cold, because I was clear. "I heard you," I said, "and I believed you." She stared at me like she wanted a fight, because a fight would keep us connected. My calm gave her nothing. "I'm going inside," I said. "Please don't show up here again." She stood there shaking, then walked away. After that, she tried to pull me back in 3 different ways. First, an unknown number called late at night. The voicemail was her voice, softer, almost gentle. "Please answer. I'm scared. I can't sleep." I blocked the numbers. Second, she emailed. Subject: "I didn't mean it like that." In that message, she tried to rewrite the whole weekend. She claimed Nolan was just a sponsor contact. She claimed the hotel was a group booking. She claimed she had used the wrong words, and I had weaponized them. I didn't argue. I created an email filter that routed everything from her into a folder labeled Jocelyn Records. If I needed receipts for lease issues, they would be there. I wasn't going to read emotional bait. Third, she sent a friend. A mutual acquaintance from her company reached out and said, "Jocelyn is a mess. She says you left over nothing. Can you at least meet her for closure?" I replied with one sentence, "Please don't get involved." Then I blocked the conversation. I wasn't going to build a crowd around a private decision. Quiet karma didn't come from me. It came from math and reputation, the 2 things Jocelyn cared about most. The property management company emailed both of us about the tenant change form. Subject: tenant change request. Additional income documentation needed. Jocelyn had tried to qualify to keep the townhouse alone. She made good money, but a big part of her compensation was variable. Without my income included, they required a higher deposit and proof of steady income over a longer period. She didn't like that. She emailed me asking if I would just sign the renewal for 1 more year, because it would keep her rent lower and give her time. I refused in writing. I reminded her I would pay my share until the current lease ended, because my name was still on it, but I would not extend my obligations. Then the social consequences hit. She had posted a photo from the conference on social media, a hotel lobby shot with a caption about leveling up. Nolan was visible in the background, close enough that anyone could connect the dots. Comments started appearing, people asking where I was, people teasing, people making assumptions. Within a day, the post was gone. A mutual friend later mentioned something Jocelyn never told me directly. Nolan didn't treat her like a priority. He introduced her to a few people, then spent most of the weekend with someone else. Jocelyn was the one who looked foolish, standing in a room she thought would elevate her, while the person she was chasing treated her like a convenience. Back in Tampa, her stability slipped. She had to move because she couldn't keep the townhouse alone. She scrambled for a roommate, but the management company required background checks and formal paperwork, and the first candidate didn't qualify. The second backed out. Jocelyn ended up paying an early termination fee because she couldn't carry the rent through the end without me, and she couldn't get the tenant change approved fast enough. At work, her image took a hit too. People notice drama, people talk. That's how those environments work. She missed a deadline on a hiring push. A manager pulled her off a high-visibility project, not because I did anything, but because instability has consequences. Meanwhile, my life got simpler. I finished out my lease obligations responsibly. I paid my share until the term ended. I transferred my utilities out of my name when the management company confirmed move-out. I kept every confirmation email, every refund notice, every document, not because I wanted revenge, but because clean exits require receipts. When the ring deposit refund hit my bank account, it showed up exactly as promised, 5 business days later. The restaurant deposit refunded next, minus the admin fee. I logged each one in a simple ledger, so if Jocelyn ever tried to claim I stole anything, I could show exactly what happened. 3 months later, I was doing fine. I moved into a smaller apartment closer to my work. I set up my home office again. I started running in the evenings, not as a fitness obsession, but because it cleared my head. I slept better. I stopped feeling like I had to monitor the room for tension. In early summer, I went to a weekend workshop at a community center on emergency preparedness and basic home safety. My company sometimes sponsors these, and I like practical skills. It was a plain room with folding chairs and a table full of pamphlets and batteries. After the workshop, people lined up to sign a sheet for completion certificates. I was putting my pen back in my pocket when I heard my name. Curtis. I turned and saw Jocelyn. She looked different, not in a dramatic makeover way, in a reality way, less polished, more tired, like someone who had learned the hard lesson that the rooms you chase don't always care if you're there. She walked toward me slowly. I didn't know you'd be here. I come to these sometimes, I said. Her eyes flicked down, then up. Can we talk just for a minute? I can listen briefly, I said, but I'm not reopening the relationship. Her lips trembled slightly. I'm sorry, she said. I was chasing something stupid. I wanted to feel important. I thought Nolan could open doors. I nodded once, and you treated me like something to hide. She flinched, like the words landed exactly where they belonged. I didn't think you'd leave, she whispered. I believed what you said, I replied, and I chose peace. She swallowed. I miss our life. I miss the stability. I kept my voice calm, not cruel. Stability isn't a service you receive while you disrespect the person providing it. She stared at me for a long moment, then asked the question she'd been circling. Is there any chance we can try again? I shook my head once. No, I'm not angry. I'm finished. There was no victory speech, no humiliation, just finality. Jocelyn's shoulders dropped. She nodded slowly, like she was finally accepting the consequence she thought wouldn't happen. I hope you're okay, she said quietly. I am, I replied. Please take care of yourself. Then I walked out into the warm Florida afternoon, got in my car, and drove home to a life that didn't require me to shrink to fit someone else's image. What would you have done in my place, and what line would have flipped your switch? Tell me in the comments.